The Museum of Perth shows our beautiful city in a historical light. Weddy visited the local cafe there this week and watched some interesting screenings of some documentaries.
What started as a dream finally became a reality. Mr. Robertson moved back to Perth after 20 years living overseas. Being fascinated with the historic architecture of Perth, started a degree in museum studies and opened his own Museum of Perth. Robertson started Facebook page and Twitter in 2012 to share unseen historic images of the city, which quickly gained a following. And he began to dream of one day founding a bricks and mortar museum.
This idea came just born from viewing other museums around the world that dealt with their city's history. So the Museum of London was a big influence for me. I was staggered to find there was a museum dealing specifically with the city's history, and obviously London has a 2,000-year plus history, and I envisaged something like that for Perth, because when I came back to Perth I looked at Perth's history and thought it's not as long, but it's still as interesting. It depends on what we focus on. So I set up a Twitter and Facebook accounts and just showed old pictures of Perth at the time, and I got really good response, which made me realise that there was a real need for history in Perth. Then about 6 months after, I had an article published on the ABC about the museum, and we were picking up quite a few Twitter followers at the time. And then Reece Harley approached me and said to me, you know, I'd love the idea of a museum of Perth. It had been discussed, you know, for many years in Perth, but nothing had been actually done about it. So yeah, we walked around Perth one afternoon and talked about what it might look like, what we could do, how we could do it.
The board has leased a space in Grand Lane behind Barrack Street in the city and have launched a crowdfunding campaign for $100,000 to fit out the space as a museum. The space will also include a cafe, and in honor of that, one of the first exhibitions at the museum will focus on a very modern obsession, coffee.
We're located in Grand Theatre Lane, between the Murray Street Mall and Wellington Street. We're down the back in this old building, and we're co-located with a little cafe called Henry Saw. Henry Saw is the man who first roasted coffee in Perth in 1852, so we've named the cafe after him.
After a crowdfunding campaign raised just over $10,000, the museum opened its first exhibition last weekend. The permanent exhibition was a timeline of Perth's development.
We've also, because we're co-located with the cafe, they're paying some of our overheads and rent. We've gone out to the public to crowdsource funding for the museum, and we're also selling books and gifts and other items, as well as having donations from the public to try and tick over and to try and pay the costs of the museum. But yes, like lots of cultural organisations, we could always do with more funding, and we're having conversations with corporate partners and philanthropists at the moment to try and generate some more support.
Future exhibitions planned include the history of coffee culture in Perth and a collaboration with Pride to celebrate 25 years of the event in Western Australia. So, history buff Dallas Robertson started his Museum of Perth social media accounts for a university assignment, and now, almost 3 years later, it is set to become a reality. For Undercurrent, with Diana Boujalala.
In a country where we pride ourselves on our democratic right to vote, many of us still choose not to. Jack Middleton gets to the bottom of this.
Hi, my name is Jack Middleton. A few weeks ago, the City of Perth voted Lisa Scafidi back in as mayor. She won with 2,260 votes, Reece Harley only getting 1,872. Now, there is 1,385 total electors for Perth, and only 4,136 turned out. That's 63% not voting for mayor, only 37% actually turning out to vote. So this got me asking about Australia's compulsory voting laws. Australia is one of 22 countries in the world. By law, the citizens have to vote in the federal elections. So I grabbed the list up of the 22 countries that have compulsory voting laws, and these are some that appear: Argentina, Australia, Brazil, Cyprus, Ecuador, Liechtenstein, then you get to this one, North Korea. You never want to be on a list with North Korea. I think that's a general rule of thumb, is to try and avoid lists being on the same lists as that country. So there's opinions out there, found a website. It says a statistic is 70% of Australians favour compulsory voting. So why did 64% of people not turn out to vote for mayor? Well, I took to the streets to find out. Do you agree with Australia's compulsory voting laws?
No, no, I don't.
Yes.
No.
No.
No, I don't.
No. Why not?
You shouldn't be forced into doing anything.
No, I don't.
No.
No.
Not good thing because not the freedom, yeah?
Do you agree with Australia's compulsory voting laws?
Yes, I do.
Why?
Yes, indeed.
Why?
I actually think it's a much fairer system that everybody votes.
Well, I believe,
Yes.
Why do you agree with them?
I think we Australians, we should be proud to be Australian and be part of it.
you should vote because it's a duty of every Australian.
Yeah, of course you've got to vote. Like, damn crap. If not, you get a fine.
I think a lot of people just do donkey votes here because they're forced to vote and don't want to get a fine.
How would you describe your political knowledge?
Quite good.
Middle of the road.
Extensive, like I do research, but I'm not a politician.
Average.
Pretty good.
I don't get involved.
Basic. It's what I see on TV, basically.
Low.
Very minimal.
A scale of 1 to 10, 1 being nothing and 10 being all-knowing. How would you describe, where would you place you?
Smack bang in the middle, 5.
Oh, 7 or 8?
5.
7?
About 5.
5.
Well, 10.
About 7.
6.5. Very specific, I like that.
Yeah, 6.5.
6.
Probably 3.
2.
1.
I haven't enrolled, no.
No, you aren't enrolled. Why aren't you enrolled?
Because my vote is probably not going to make much of a difference.
They should be educated. More information should be given to them.
How did you avoid enrolling?
You just don't enroll.
So you don't think they should be fined $20 or $170?
And shouldn't be fined, but should be condemned.
Okay, so you just didn't enrol?
Just didn't enroll, no.
So, there's a list of questions on the Australian electoral website. Can I remove my name from the electoral roll? No, you can't. I don't agree with Australian electoral law. What can I do? The Commonwealth Electoral Act of 1980 underpins the electoral process. Any changes of this law are decided by the Parliament. So, the Parliament, the people who you're voting for, get to decide whether you vote for them. Couldn't there be a vote for whether you have to vote or not? Can I decide to vote in that? You have to. So, what these 22 countries on this list have in common are some of them have very small populations and some of them have governmental systems which are dictatorships. Now, I think the laws that you make as a country determine which lists you appear on. I think there's more important lists than this, and I think to have the right to vote and be forced to is better than to not have the right to vote at all. I think just as a country, you've got to make the choices to appear on the lists that say to other countries that you value citizens, that you're doing what's right for them, and that your country is welcoming. Being forced to vote isn't necessarily going to make people interested in politics and isn't necessarily going to increase the turnout of local elections from about 34%. Got to first become an interesting political system which they feel like they can participate and their votes make a difference. Some people didn't feel like their votes made a difference at all. And I think that's where it needs to change in the system to make people want to vote rather than forcing them to. I'm Jack Middleton, and this has been Undercurrent.
The movie Back to the Future predicted by 2015 that our usual mode of transport would be self-balancing scooters and hoverboards. Now, Laura Nova hits the streets of Perth and finds out what life would be truly like for inner city dwellers if that were true today.
Little girl, stop, look, I need to borrow your hoverboard. Where is he? Here. There! He's on a hoverboard!
Have you had the chance to watch the movie Back to the Future?
Yeah.
Yes, I have.
Yes, I have, yeah.
Yes, I have. Of course, I love Back to the Future. Number 1, 2, and 3. My father is a big fan of it. Absolutely love it.
2015? You mean we're in the future?
They predicted by 2015 we would be using hoverboards. These are called self-balancing scooters, but also known as hoverboards.
Well, technically they're not hoverboards. Hoverboards is when there's a magnetic field between not only the board itself but the Earth's surface. To me, it just looks like they've taken the Segway, where you stand on it, you got your heels and you push forward. But other than that, it just I don't classify as a hoverboard.
I don't like them. No, I wouldn't get one, and I think they're pretty stupid, and people look stupid riding them.
So the Department of Transport in Western Australia doesn't allow us to use them. Do you think that that is fair?
No, not at all.
No, I don't. I think if people want to use them, then they can.
I agree with them banning them out of very highly populated areas, yes.
If everyone was to have one of those, there would be a lot of accidents.
I don't think it's fair because I think that the disabled and that the people who need to get to certain areas at a certain time and that aren't as mobile as the rest of us need the hoverboards.
Maybe if you have some sort of disability where it hurts for you to walk or something, maybe they can make exceptions.
But rather than completely banning the thing out, they should have a point where people are allowed to use them and then just segregate so people are able to learn and progress and able to grow as a civilization in technology-wise and everything.
Well, maybe not on the roads just yet while there's still a lot of cars, but I mean, if people want to use them, it's just like someone standing. It's not like it's a giant thing. It's still perfectly fine to use around people, when they're walking and stuff like that. People prefer to use them, and that's their choice. I think it's perfectly fine.
Some other people say that they would improve the mobility. We would have less cars around the city and, for example, would improve the pollution levels. What do you think?
I don't know. I don't understand why you can't just walk.
It's not going to improve anything, honestly. They're more of a toy than they should be used as mobility. Nah, I don't really see any point in them.
I guess it would save you money in bus and train and everything because they'd have some way of getting around and stuff. So it's not going to really change anything. The only people that are going to be using the hoverboards are the people that are already walking anyway. But it could do in the sense of just time management. That's the main thing because you'll be able to go faster than general. That's the only thing that I can see as being a positive.
Your future is whatever you make it.
Now, a group of Western Australian university students developed the very first electric jet ski. Jack Middleton was there for the first demonstration.
It's just a regular quiet day here at Matilda Bay. Or is it? Well, yes, it is in fact. UWA students have recently designed Australia's first electric jet ski. And today, they're giving it a test drive.
It's surreal. When you first get on it, you switch it on, there's no sound, there's no fanfare to say that it's on. And you throttle up and you're moving. Thomas has been supervising it, and then the designs and everything as well with his oversight have been developed by students, all put together. So we've put in a whole bunch of different safety systems. We're complying with all the various Australian standards for electricity on water, which it's a bit stricter than building, say, an electric vehicle. We've got sensors that shut it down in the event of something going wrong, as well as everything being double insulated. So if something does break, there's always a second point of failure beyond that to keep you safe.
So I'm a mechanical engineer at UWA. So I've been helped designing the cooling system and a lot of the mechanical aspects. I'm one of the more experienced jet ski drivers, so I'm the one that gets to test it when we head out for the water testing. We've put in a lot of hard work, so to finally be getting it on the water and doing the on-water test is really exciting and really rewarding as well.
We've been doing the REV project for about 8 years now, and we've converted a number of electric cars, but cars are now commonplace. So the next project idea was doing an electric jet ski or electric boat. That's why we did this, because most people love jet skis because they're fun to ride, but many people hate jet skis because they're really noisy and they also pollute the air and the environment. We just charge this from any power point, preferably using renewable energy, and then we're good to go, in this case for half an hour. Well, you're limited to, I would say, 1 hour, maybe 2 hours if you have more batteries in there, but recharge time at that model that we have, which is a prototype, is almost 3 hours. But with DC charging, that comes down to 7 minutes. So 7 minutes is not much more than filling petrol.
Does the new engine affect the speed?
I don't think it makes any difference, no. I think they're not have to be running like a petrol engine, just run at their nominal speed.
92.4 volts.
What does 92.4 volts mean?
So that's the volts that the battery pack is currently at. Our minimum where we start to damage the cells is 84. But obviously when you're drawing from the battery pack, the voltage drops down quite substantially.
What does damage the cells mean?
They don't hold charge anymore. They swell up a bit and don't hold charge anymore, which kills the whole battery pack. You've got to pull the whole thing out and replace it.
What would cause damaged cells? Would going too fast cause that to...
No, just dropping the voltage below their minimum or charging them over their maximum voltage.
Have you ever had that happen?
We've had it happen on a couple of other projects, but these are a different battery chemistry, so they're a lot more robust.
It's the only one in Australia, and there's apparently only 2 in the world, including this one. We've just measured speeds in excess of 40 kilometers an hour. We're still sort of optimizing the parameters, so I think there's quite some leeway to get a bit faster. Of a milestone now, so the project is sort of finished as of now, so we can use this and show it to interested parties, enjoy it.
So at the moment we don't have actually any data to tell us how fast it's going, and as I said, we're getting it faster and faster every time. So as Thomas said before, I think we're going to get it not quite as fast as a regular jet ski, but pretty close.
We need to shift the battery pack further back. It's a bit nose heavy at the moment. We would love to put newer batteries which have much greater capacity in them. And yeah, we just need to tune up the motor controller, which should give us better responsiveness and better max power. Moving on to electric vehicles will be very exciting. That's definitely the future for transportation.
This has been Jack Middleton reporting for Undercurrent.
What are the dangerous hazards that some of us simply don't know about when disposing of old batteries? Laura Nova investigates.
Batteries keep our world in motion, from our cars, boats, our laptops, phones, toys, tools. According to a study carried out by the Australian Battery Recycling Initiative in 2010, they estimate that Australia consumes 264 million handheld batteries every year. Handheld batteries are those which weigh less than 1 kilogram and includes the batteries of our cell phones, laptops, the AAA batteries which we can find in our remotes. But according to the Australian Battery Recycling Initiative, only the 4% of those batteries are recycled in Australia. So I wonder what happens with those 8,000 tonnes of batteries which go in landfill every year.
Walga is a current active member of ABRI. We think we're a like-minded organisation. We currently run, local government runs the recycling of batteries program within the state, and it's funded through the Household Hazardous Waste program, which is funded by the Waste Authority, so state government. So we believe there's a strong link there, and we want to work with ABRI to see what we can do.
It's pretty amazing the amount of batteries that Australians actually use, and that we throw about 70% of the batteries straight into the bin. So there's 2 types of batteries. There's your normal disposable batteries and then rechargeable batteries as well. And when those batteries go into landfill, a lot of our landfill sites aren't necessarily lined. So as those batteries start to break down, they leach into the soil and into the water, and that can start to affect our environment, and it has human impacts as well.
Although all batteries should be recycled, there are some which are more profitable than others. That is the case of lead-acid batteries, or the batteries which we can find in our cars, trucks or tractors. About 70% of the world's lead production is now sourced from recycled batteries.
All of them have the full attention. You know, it is said out there that there are some batteries are more dangerous than others, as in lithium batteries or in the small batteries that children and babies can swallow. We don't tend to take that view. All batteries are hazardous, and all batteries need to be treated with care and recycled in a proper manner.
There is room for legislation in this area, and it's up to the manufacturers as well as the consumers to make sure that there are regulations in place when they're actually designing products and materials and are using batteries as efficiently as possible, and perhaps having recovery conditions on the end of life of materials as well, where they will actually collect and recycle the materials, because at the moment there's not a lot of recycling options in Australia. Some of it happens in Australia, some of it happens internationally. So we really need a multidisciplinary effort to actually bring in some good legislation in this area. Well, have to think of batteries like any other product and consider it over its whole life cycle. So there's a lot of raw materials that have to go into making batteries, a lot of metals that go into those that have to be mined to actually create the batteries, and then they have to be recycled at the end. And they're finite resources, so we're eventually going to run out of all those kind of metals, and I'm sure we'll look back in years and think, why on earth weren't we recycling it? And it'll become economically feasible later on. So it's really important to try and harness all of those materials and make use of them now before we run out of them, and I think that's one of the main reasons we really need to start recycling batteries and stop so many going into landfill sites where we can't recover them.
We need to make people aware of what the problem is and educate them on the ways that they can change it. So what is it that the batteries do to landfill? Why shouldn't we do it that way? And educate them on the correct ways to dispose of your batteries, to not put them in your recycling bin because of the hazards that involves. It's not just the hazard when they get to landfill, it's incorrect disposal through your recyclable bin. So please don't put your batteries in the recycling bin, particularly if you put green waste in there or paper, because lithium batteries, for example, will create a fire. It's also quite dangerous for the people who have to sort the rubbish and do things with those recycled goods. So please don't put them in there. Do look up where they should go. So we're just looking at that as a starting point, as the danger of incorrectly disposing of them. And often people do that when they're not even aware, because of lack of education on this subject. They think they're doing the right thing by recycling. But there are 150 depots where you can drop off your batteries to in the metro area. Either call into your local council office, they'll be able to give you the list of designated areas and drop off spots, or alternatively go to the Recycle Near You website. Just simply look that up on the web and you'll find the list of locations there as well.
Laura Novo reporting for Undercurrent.
Now, there were some amazing stories tonight. Now, if you have a story or an event that you want covered, jump on our website and contact us here at WTV. Now, join us next week for Undercurrent, same time. I'm Melissa Gurney.